let's face it, these guys are career political animals, and they don't really know how to do anything else. Here to talk about all of this is Gina Loudon, host of the Dr.Gina show. She's a psychology expert and contributor for Politichicks.tv. All right, Gina, so this seems to be, I think this is one of those moments where I don't know if I'm going to be called sexist, but it seems to be limited to men. I mean, and to throw Mark Sanford into that mix. It seems like these men get into politics and they can't do anything else in life.
The power of the drugs, of sex, money, and power, those things are very addictive. And when you have somebody who gets some of that, gets a taste of that, and doesn't feel fulfilled in other ways, Andrew, then suddenly they start to crave more and more of those three things because it works like a drug in their brain. It's something that they come to need more and more and more of. And, some behavioral experts will say, this is narcissism, this is an egomaniacal behavior. I agree, that's probably true, but let's remember this all comes from a place of deficit in what is their personal self-esteem. I hate the word self-esteem, but you have to use it here because if they really were confident men, they'd have stability in all areas of their lives, not just this constant need to fulfill another, basically a need for a drug.
Mark Sanford's kind of an anomaly here. Usually when conservatives or Republicans get shamed in these sort of things, they disappear very quickly. You had Larry, the wide stance Craig, he disappeared. You had, what was the guy in Florida with the creepy emails? Versus Jerry Studs, who was the Massachusetts congressman that actually did have gay sex with a male page. He stayed in Congress until he retired, and he used to get standing ovations when the issue came up. You see this Elliot Spitzer, Bill Clinton. The list goes on and on. For some reason, these people cannot hack it in the real world. And what's funny is they're supposed to be the smartest people in this country, but how come nobody wants to buy their labor and give them a job in a law firm or anywhere else for that matter once these scandals hit them?
Well, I think the truth is that the ego strokes just don't come when they're out of politics. Obviously, there are a lot of politicians who've moved on to other things that in some ways are bigger and better, but they just aren't constantly getting that power trip. These people have definitely demonstrated an addiction to that power, and that addiction manifests itself in also an addiction. A lot of times we'll see money scandals around some of these same people, and then we'll see sex scandals around these same people. And I think it's really interesting.
The sex scandal thing, this is what I don't get. You take Bill Clinton. Did he not know what he was risking? He's sitting in the most powerful office on earth, not thinking to himself, what I'm doing in here could put not just me at risk, but the whole country. John Edwards was this close to being on the ticket when his staffers found out about Riley Hunter, and they decided if he didn't quit, they were going to expose him because they knew he was going to keep going. And they were so darned afraid that he'd be on the ticket, then it would come out.
The key component here, I think you can look back at each of these people you mentioned, you can look back at their career, and they got away with thing after thing after thing to where they really built themselves up so high, and they have surrounded and insulated themselves with so many yes men that they've started to believe their own press, if you will. And that's easy to get yourself in that situation. There are probably less than a handful of politicians in Washington, D.C. who don't fit that description. You surround yourself with people that tell you what is so great about you all day long, and pretty soon, guess what? You start to believe it, and you think you might be immune from judgments should you get caught. So that's why they take these risks.
What is it that allows the public? Because Newt Gingrich had a lot of his, he had a lot of problems. I'm not sparing anybody in this one. If a name comes to mind, I'm going to say it. But then they managed to resurrect themselves just a few months later. You got, like I said, you got Mark Sanford running for Congress. You've got Anthony Weiner, Elliot Spitzer. Shouldn't the public be finding better people?
The public should definitely be finding better people, and I think the public should look at these people and think, okay, if they are willing to abuse their office that way, that says something about how much respect they have for me as a voter, right? But the situation is this. You have folks like Bill Clinton and Spitzer and Weiner and all the rest of them, and they've gotten away with so much traditionally that they just don't have that much regard for the voter. Now, the psychology of the voter is interesting here, too, because the voter is telling themselves, well, we want to forgive. We want to be the type of society that forgives. And voters enjoy the process of forgiveness when they've seen three factors. These are the three factors I've observed. One is a really true contrite apology. One is some bad befalling that guy, whether it's just public humiliation or whatever. And the third one that seems to be the golden ticket here is if the marriage survives, that politician seems to have a better time getting along with the public again after these sex scandals.
But wait a second. What Spitzer was doing was criminal. And Weiner lied about it. He was hiring a private detective or something. So if I'm the voter, and this is something that was not, this is something that was brought to me as this person can't be trusted. And when they were exposed, they lied about it. What makes me think as a voter they aren't going to do this to me if given, and I don't mean literally do this to me, I mean violate my trust, if I give them a second chance at power?
Because this is the thing. Most voters are very human, and they have sin lives of their own in whatever forms. Even if you look at evangelical voters, for example, you know, more than 50% of those marriages end in divorce. Their addiction to pornography is higher than that of the general population. So they're going, hey, you know what? I'm fighting my own demons. Who am I to judge this guy for
You're
that?
the voter.
And
you don't have to vote for these people. You
I
have
agree
no
with you.
obligation to vote for these people.
And I think the biggest problem right here is the public's willingness to condone and move on and forgive. I think that is the biggest problem here, because the thing that the voter needs to consider is, yes, you might be a sinner too. You might have your things that, you know, you can relate to this guy on, and you might love to forgive. But what they're forgetting, what the voter's forgetting, is the whole line of victims that are out there somewhere in this guy's dust who have been really hurt. Their lives have been put in major upheaval. In a lot of cases, you know, sexual abuse and things like that. We're seeing that with our own San Diego mayor right now. And so there's a line of victims here that the public is totally disregarding in feeling better about themselves, forgiving the sins of our politicians. No, we shouldn't stand for it. There's no question.
I just think if they were so smart and so capable, they'd be able to do something in the private sector and say, look, I'm a reliable, successful person that you want managing public affairs. When this is all that they're capable of, and they're not even that capable of handling the responsibility of being a public figure, I think it's time to go away. Maybe try to work on that private sector resume, but all they do is wait to come back to politics. It's sad.
It's confounding, but I'll tell you this, it's absolutely predictable, because these guys need that public affirmation, that constant attention, that feeling of power and stardom and fame to continue to feed their addiction, to try and fill the holes that are their places in their lives that they don't feel fulfilled. So this is a pattern that's going to continue with these people, and in fact it is these people who are more likely to re-seek office after a sex scandal or a money scandal or a power scandal than the politicians who went, okay, you know, I'm pretty well adjusted. I served my time. I'm done now. I think I'll go get a job in the private sector, get out of the fishbowl. Those are the guys who probably have the most intact egos, to be completely honest about it.
Well, I guess if a loser gets elected, you have to blame the voter, not the loser. And now all of a sudden they're a winner.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Gina. Great to have you on the program. Enjoy your weekend.
Good to be with you.
Now.